It's obvious that you listen to this show to hear about and support other people's dreams. But what about yours? What is your dream project? I'm here to help you break through whatever is in the way of your dreams and get you to the finish line. Go to dreamingbigcoaching.com today and take the first step. Literally, it's a button you can click to sign up for a free consultation with me. Let's find out if I can help you reach your goal. Click on Take the First Step. It's that simple to start the rest of your life. Get coached by Rob Southgate at dreamingbigcoaching.com. Look, we're all nerds here. Todd Stashwick's Nerd Circus is a great place to pick up nerdy paraphernalia and groovy wares. How about some sweet lava lamp dice? Or maybe a funky 70s Rec Room Nerd Circus dice box? Does that do anything for you? Need a drink? What about the book Mystic Libations? Critical cocktails for the thirsty adventurer. Look, Todd Stashwick's Nerd Circus is the place for nerdy threads, cool tabletop gifts, and more. Go to thenerdcircus.com and check out the cool stuff. Oh yeah, and let them know the TTRPG Insider sent you. Welcome back again to TTRPG Insider. I'm your host, Rob Southgate. TTRPG Insider is a podcast about, shockingly enough, tabletop role-playing games. More specifically, it's about the amazing people that create TTRPGs. Every episode, I interview someone who's involved in the making of the games that we all love to play. I want to hear their stories, the stories about their lives, not just a description of the game they've helped create. You can follow TTRPG Insider on Facebook by searching for TTRPG Insider. I plan to add some other social media, but for now, that's the best place to reach us. If you want to email me, you can send me an email directly to rob@ttrpginsider.com. This month, we are featuring Girl By Moonlight by Evil Hat Productions. They have a backer kit campaign running through June 22nd. Please support this crowdfunding effort, both financially and by sharing it across your social media. You never know who's going to fall in love with this game. I know I did. Go to BackerKit and search for Girl By Moonlight, or simply click on the link in our show notes. Today's guest is Sadie Neat. She's the indexer for this month's featured game, Girl By Moonlight by Evil Hat Productions. Here's Sadie. Hi, Sadie. Welcome to the show. I am excited to have you here. You are my first indexer.
Really?
My first. Yes. So Sadie is part of the team behind Girl By Moonlight. Sadie is the indexer for it, if you didn't catch me saying that already. And Sadie, why don't you tell people about yourself a little bit, and then we'll jump into it.
I'm from Toronto. I live in Toronto anyway, and play a lot of tabletop RPGs, I guess. And I'm a writer. That's my general, what I would do. I don't know. I don't know what's interesting to tell people about me.
Actually, that was all interesting. I have questions already. So you said first of all, you corrected yourself when you said I'm from Toronto. And you said, well, I live there. Where are you actually from?
I'm from Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Okay.
In the East Coast, East Coast Canada. I've lived all over. I've lived in Toronto for like 16 years now. So
I think after the 5-year mark, you can pretty much say I'm pretty much from here. So it was just a fun way for you to say it. I'm like, I really want to dig into that. And you said you're a writer.
Yeah.
So what kind of writing do you do?
I mostly do creative writing. I do screenplays and plays and poetry sometimes, short stories, that kind of stuff. That's mainly what I do. Although I also do like game writing, world building, stuff like that, setting development, that kind of thing. But primarily just like storytelling, creative writing stuff.
Is there a genre that you like to stick to?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think I would say a genre. I think I'm more aspire to like a certain like styles. Like I really like Umberto Eco and like William Gibson. I would say would be like my two favorite writers. But I wouldn't say I'm trying to like do cyberpunk or I'm trying to do nor am I trying to do like the Catholic styled intrigue of Umberto Eco, but that's the kind of like vibes I'm really into.
Sure, sure. Very cool. Yeah, I remember reading William Gibson, my God, 30 some years ago, reading Neuromancer that first time. I've been like, what is it? Because when I read it, it was like the internet was AOL and that was about it. And you're reading this going, is this guy seeing the future? Is this really it? It was pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It's really something like that. And the his other books, the Adora series, is really, it's just like fascinating. The ways in which it's prescient, and also like how, but also like not just about the technology, but like people's connections to it. And
right. How it's integrated into their lives, and it is. I was always a big Philip K. Dick fan, and I still am a big Philip K. Dick fan. And it's a similar vibe. It's not quite as technical as Gibson, but I mean, you can see even now, like every time I turn around, it seems like somebody's producing something, some obscure Philip Dick piece, and you go, oh, wait, that was him. And it's just now making sense to be made into something.
Yeah, I always appreciated Philip K. Dick's like surrealism, and the stuff that they make, like A Scanner Darkly. That's a great movie. Like the movie version of it. They do really good job with his stuff when it's adapted.
Where I got into him was, once again, I think it was junior high, maybe freshman year when Blade Runner came out, and seeing that, and then finding out, wait, there's a sci-fi book that this is based on. And I went out and I bought a little paperback of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and I was blown away. I'm like, well, this isn't the movie, but my God. And then it became a bit of an obsession after.
Sticks in your brain.
It does. The other sci-fi guy that then a cousin introduced me to was Theodore Sturgeon, and he's one that I put in the same bucket. He wrote a lot of like Star Trek series stuff, original series stuff, and but his stuff is pretty heady sci-fi stuff, and it is exceptional. There's one in particular story called Case and Dreamer, which is a pretty basic story, and now that after I read it, I'm like, oh, I've seen a million people rip this off in various forms. And there is weird imagery in this short story, like a couple sentences that live in my brain. They're just, whenever something pops up, I'm like, oh, it's Case and Dreamer. It's kind of like when you hear the word Gronk and you go like, oh, every time I hear somebody say Gronk, I'm like, I know what they've read. That's awesome. So, well, that's cool. And you said you've written screenplays. Has anything ever been produced?
No.
You're just hammering away at them.
Yeah, I don't know really. Like I'm very inexperienced with the business element of everything. I've been writing since I was like 5. Like that's all I've ever done. But I have no idea how you even get a screenplay produced. I don't know am I supposed to call an agent? I got no idea. I'm just writing them.
Just writing them. Well, you know what? It's worked for other people.
It'll happen.
Writing, and then one day somebody said, "Hey, wait a minute, what have you got?" And boom,
exactly,
you're a screenwriter. So
that's kind of how I got hooked up with Evil Hat in the first place. Actually, it was the same thing.
Really? Well, how did that happen? Tell me the story.
So I know this guy Mike Olson. He's worked at Evil Hat for a very long time. Worked with Evil Hat for a very long time. He wrote the Fate Core book originally, Spirit of the Century, I think. Atomic Robo was big.
Oh yeah.
I knew him through a podcast fandom group on Facebook.
Okay.
And in that group, he started a tabletop game that we played on Roll20, I think. I know we played it through Slack at the time. We were playing through Slack at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just like a random call for people who wanted to play from that group. And I joined the call and we became friends. And I had always been interested in, writing for tabletop games in some way. So I asked Mike if he could like connect me with someone at Evil Hat, and he gave me Sean Nittner's email address, and I emailed Sean and got on their like list of people who can do things for the books. And eventually he sent me a message about Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which is the first thing I worked on with Evil Hat, where I was for the index. And that's how I like that. That just started there.
Awesome. And you're indexing for Girl by Moonlight as well.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, what does an indexer do?
Well, after the book is written and like the layout is done, they call me I read the whole book.
You're the wolf. You come in at the last second and clean everything up, right?
I don't fix anything. I mean, I'll suggest things if I see something that I think is uh, like a print error or something that has just been missed. I'll email it. But I go and I read the whole book and I write down every time a mechanic or a proper noun specific to the book is referenced, and I write down the page number. I write the index out, and it's like it's a long pass, and then I do a second pass where I reread and I have to like really make sure to understand everything that time, because like I'm not just trying to get an exhaustive list of what each item is and on what page it's on.
Right.
I'm trying to make it usable, because one of the first things I always look at in a tabletop book is the index, because like I need to know.
I do too.
Is it good? Is it usable? Because a lot of games you'll get like you'll have to like reference subsections, and if you don't know specifically what the thing you're looking up is about, how do you know to go to the subsection? Unless it's like written twice in the index, and then why write it twice? Why not just put it in the place people are? Anyway, there's a couple there's like philosophy I have about it at this point in my in my job of doing it, but it's basically just reading the book and understanding it. Like I have to understand the game, and I do usually do 2 to 4 passes depending on the length of it. And with Girl by Moonlight, it was really interesting because they have the 4 different settings are like quite different. There's a lot of different moves.
Did you almost have to treat it like 4 different projects?
No, like I still have to like it's still everything still has to be interconnected, but like it still also has to be look upable by which setting by which play set I think they're called in GBM. By which play set it is. So like if something is really specific to a play set, it's going to be in the subsection for that play set. But if it's like something that is maybe just accentuated in that play set, it might be somewhere else. But it's like it's I don't know, it's just a process.
Yeah. Well, I find it so interesting, and that's what this show is about. I'm trying to dig into what all the different mechanics are, all the different parts, and the people behind it. Like, who would have thought the Indexer had this world of screenplays at their disposal? And it's so interesting because the Index, having self-published a book, I know how vital it is. Like I had to go back and look at it and go, wait a minute, what needs to go in the index? What is it that people will be interested in? And how do I make sure it's there?
Yeah.
And said in a way that makes sense, because that's the worst too. When, you go to the index and it maybe it's said a little differently and you're like, I can't find this damn thing at all. And you're like reading through. So it is a critical part. And that's why I do this show. I want people to hear like all these different pieces and how it fits together. I think the indexer is actually a critical element, which is funny because when you and I were first communicating, you're like, are you sure you want to talk to me, the indexer? I'm like, yes, I definitely do.
Well, that's flattering. I do think it's critical. It's something I think about a lot especially when I'm between books. And I'm trying to like make my brain not like forget everything I've learned, because like my first index I ever wrote I was writing essays for college students, and someone got me to do their to edit their masters to this service. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, this is like 170 pages and I need to organize it. So I made my own index for it that I didn't give them. And like that's all the experience I really had, like in terms of making like a really serious index. And when I first started doing it, I was like looking up how other people were doing it. I went through my other Evil Hat books. I went through all my D&D books. I looked like at all their indexes and like looked at what I liked about them and what I didn't like. And like, there's like certain things where where an index will reference a mechanic or a word or something, and it won't be like every instance of it, which it'll just be like instance. It'll be like the first instance where it gives you new information, and anytime it gives you new information, it'll show up. And like that's like a personal maybe or style based decision someone's going to make with their index. I know it's always like a choice for me. How am I going to do this? What's the right move for this particular book? Like Girl by Moonlight was no exception. Like it's a lot of cross referencing, and like the level that you have to really know what's going on in the book is wild to me. Like I skim a lot of old D&D books. That's how I would learn is early on. I would just like flip through a book and like try and pick up what the game was. But you can't do that. Like, I mean, I do that for the first pass, but that doesn't work. The second pass, I have to like be able to play a game in my head. I have to understand how the game really
you have to
works.
really know it inside and out.
What is someone going to need to look up?
Yeah, it is. It's critical. Yeah. It's critical. I know you said you helped people with their master's papers. Here's my bad. When I did my big final thesis for my MBA, it was I don't even know how many pages. I wrote a book, and my index is crap. By the time, I mean, you're writing all the way up through the deadline. You got, what is it, 10 weeks to write, and you're like, trying to, I get to the index, and I'm just like, big overarching, like, you know what? There's like 8 things in the index. Good luck.
I think it's a lot harder to write an index for something that you yourself wrote.
Oh, yeah, because you're
so familiar with it.
Oh, that's exactly it. It's like when you try to self-edit.
Yes,
you know exactly what you meant. Even if you read the sentence and it's complete garbage, in your brain, it's putting this word here and doing this. And it's like, oh, it makes perfect sense. So, yeah, it's vital that you have somebody else's eyes on it. In my case, it didn't cost me any points. Thank God.
That's good.
my mentor / professor, by the time I got it to him, we had talked through the process the whole way. We got to the end. He didn't give a crap really about the paper. In fact, he didn't even let me do my presentation. I had a big presentation ready to go. And he goes, do you want to just go get sushi? I'm like, am I going to do it? He was like, no, you've done it for 12 weeks. Like, I know everything you're going to say in here. Let's go get some sushi. All right. Don't you wish it was that way at Evil Hat? You know what? You've read the book 4 times. Let's just go get some sushi.
That would be, I like doing it though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I liked writing the paper. That was awesome. And I would have loved to do the presentation. I am Mr. Presentation. Like, put me in the room. I got him. But yeah, the index was garbage. But what can you do?
Yeah.
If I release it as a book, I promise I'll get an index, or maybe I'll hire you.
Yeah. Give me
Index by Sadie. And you'll be like, why am I reading this book over and over? How uninteresting. So you said you're a big gamer.
Yeah. I played tabletop games my whole life, basically.
Let's go way back.
Okay.
Way back. Where did you start? What was your first one?
The first game I ever played was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. My mother's friends in university, she had a friend whose boyfriend was like a huge D&D nerd. He still is. He plays he's in a metal band now as well. I think he's got to be in his early 50s.
Okay. They don't throw stones.
Fair enough. He invited me and my sister to play a game with him and his girlfriend, basically. It was basically like they were babysitting us, and this was something we could do.
Yeah.
So I made a elf magic user. An elf? Just a magic user? I was an elf of some kind.
Hold on, let me check the index. It tells me Sadie was elf magic user. Got it. Okay.
I remember I made my character 6'8" and like 80 pounds. Because I had no concept of like space or anything. I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Yikes! So it's Slender Man.
I don't remember much about the game. We did like 3 sessions, and we were in I have like a very vivid visual memory of the map that he drew. And I remember we were like exploring a cave or something, and I think there were kobolds there. I don't remember what it was, but that was the first time.
But it drew you in. It lit your imagination.
The maps are what really got me. I was really into the maps. I didn't really care about any of the characters or story ideas. I was just like, I just want to draw maps. Anytime I see a grid like that, I'm pretty much into whatever it is.
Yeah, I get that.
I love a grid.
I love a grid. Are you going to get that as a bumper sticker? Because I think that might be That might be your catchphrase.
Any kind of grid, square, hex. I love a hex grid.
Oh, wow.
It's
Now
fun.
we're getting
They're all
personal.
fun. Triangles, triangle grid. That's
Getting wild. So that's where you started. And then and I have a similar story, so I understand that part of it. But then there's another part where, as you get a little bit older and you start playing, was there a different game other than AD&D that you found and it like,
oh yeah,
that was the tipping point, or was it still D&D was the tipping point where you went all in?
Honestly, D&D is kind of worked against it for me for most of my life. I feel
interesting.
After that AD&D game, I was visiting a friend in New Brunswick after I had moved away out of there, and he introduced me to Gamma World, which to this day remains my favorite setting.
Nice.
I
never played Gamma World. I know all about it, but I never played it.
I can't speak to the system. I would have been like 7 or 8 at the time, and but that was the time I was sold on like the world and like the idea of it. I just like love the whole found technology. That's so cool to me. And like a ruined, irradiated world where just mutants can exist of any kind.
Yes,
I love that. So that was a really big one for me. We also played. I played a lot of Vampire, the Masquerade.
Sure.
And I was in high school. We played a lot, and I also was in a live vamp LARP in the goth scene in Toronto for many years, which was a way to play that game.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Shadowrun. I played a lot of D20 systems, Spycraft, Mutants and Masterminds. There's another one I was thinking of recently. No, it's gone. D20 Modern, did I say that?
Nope, you didn't say that one.
D20 Modern, we played a lot of anything we could get our hands on, like as a group that I would be playing. And then through all of that, whatever edition of D&D is going on, we would also be playing with my old group. But that was like, I've basically been playing nonstop since I was like 6 years old.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that's how you ended up with Evil Hat. Now you were a fan of Evil Hat stuff? I mean, you mentioned a little bit.
I was a Fate evangelist from day one. Like the first time I read Fate long before I met Mike, I was like, this is like a Bible for how to be a DM, like how to run a game. It's how to like design your game, how to approach like interacting with players, like everything in that original book, like it just blew my mind from like a GM perspective. Because if you hear what I just said, listening to the list of games I just said, like that's all like hyper technical, thick rulebook games. Like I wasn't playing like indie games, you know?
Yeah, right.
So like Fate Core was the first book I read where it was like not like an extremely gamist perspective from or even simulation. It's just like people want to talk to each other. Like this is a book for how to get people to talk to each other, which had always been an issue in the games I was playing, you know, growing up. Sure. Games in high school. Outside of like Vamp, most of those games were extremely like just crunchy, a lot of like intricately planned encounters and like obsessive builds. So Fate Core changed like how I thought about games, and that was a big one.
Very cool. So would you say Fate Core is still your favorite?
As far as like books, that is still the one I recommend to everybody first. Like I'm always like, you've got to read Fate Core if you're gonna be like really playing tabletop games. Read Fate Core, even if you're not gonna play it, read it.
Solid.
But like I've really been into the Powered by the Apocalypse games since I've started working on them. I haven't played Powered by the Apocalypse, but I haven't played Apocalypse World. I'm running a Dungeon World game at the moment.
Okay,
and
cool.
That's interesting. I have changes I would make, but I'm enjoying it. I like things about it.
You ever play? I think it's called Mazes. You ever play Mazes?
No, my friend was telling me about that recently and telling me I should check it out because I'm running Dungeon World. So
when you said Dungeon World, that's what I thought of.
Yeah, I gotta look into that one.
I got to play it at GaryCon this year, and I've been thinking about it ever since. It was so fun. It was such a great game. And you like when you said the thing about getting people to talk. that game, it's like a critical element to it. Because there's so much like you have to give your ideas and you have to talk to each other and be like, hey, are we doing this? Like you have to get conversation going. Otherwise, it's like, okay, well, you're stuck or I'm just slaughtering you. Like it was like
I'm gonna have to definitely look into that one.
Yeah, it was
telling me
so
about
fun. And we all walked away from the table. It was a group of people that I didn't know. We all walked away from the table. We all got, because of that interaction, we all got each other on a Twitter or a message thread. And for days afterwards, we kept writing to each other like, oh, remember? Oh, you should have tried. Oh, and it was like, wow, the engagement there was crazy good.
Yeah, that's something I'm always chasing with like a tabletop game because I want to get away. I'm always like running away from those high school experiences of being like, all right, I'm going to move here and do this. Like that wasn't, not that was bad. It's just like I spent the first half of my life doing that. I'm good now.
Yeah, you're looking for something different, something more engaging. Yeah, I totally get that. So, okay, upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you've got Girl by Moonlight, but what have you got upcoming? Anything you can talk about?
I think I can talk about the Codex of Worlds for Monster of the Week. I did the index on that. That's going on Kickstarter at some point. I have no idea when, but the page is up on Evil Hat, so I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to mention this.
Okay.
I've got I'm working on some other stuff with Evil Hat that's in the pipeline. I can't talk about.
We won't talk about, but there's more Evil Hat coming. That alone is good news.
And I've got a Patreon that I do all kinds of stuff on. But outside of that, I have not much I'm working on. That's gonna like be a thing that comes out.
All right. Hey, very cagey. We couldn't really get an answer out of it, but we know you're working. That's the key, right?
Yeah.
So where can people find you? Where can they engage with you?
Twitter is the best place to engage with me in terms of that's where I'm talking to people publicly.
Okay, perfect. And what's your Twitter handle?
It's at Fujoshi Dial, FUJOSHIDILE.
Great.
And I have a link to my link tree on there, which has like all the books I've worked on and podcast guests at times I've been on podcasts.
Very cool.
And my Patreon and et cetera. Anything else that's like a random thing.
All the stuff is in that link tree. Well, and I'll also put all this in the show notes. That makes it so much easier for people. Some people are auditory. So when you say it, they're like, bip, right on their phone. Others need to hear it and go, oh, yeah, I definitely want to find out about indexing. Bam. I just want to talk nerdy about Gamma World. Bam.
Yeah. Tweet at me about Gamma World, please. I love Gamma World.
I have a friend who, and I think the game, I've never played it. I think it's called Wars. It's like a card game or something. There's a whole lore about it. He's a writer, and he is, to this day, obsessed with this game. Just obsessed. And
is it with a Z on the end?
Oh, I don't know.
I got to look this up.
Okay. You know what? If I can't find it, I'm going to type it in. Wars with a Z. Let's see.
It's a card game?
I think it's a card game. You know what? I can't find it. I'm going to have to find it for you, and I'll send it to you. And if I remember, I'll put it in the show notes as well. He's just obsessed with it. And his publishing company that he owns, they got the rights to write fiction in that world.
Oh.
And he's just like, I could give up everything else I'm doing because this is the top of the mountain. I'm like, really? Just obsessed with it. So when you mentioned Gamma World, I can
understand that.
You could write forever in Gamma World. I totally get it.
Oh yeah. I have a screenplay that's kind of like Lost, but on a Gamma World.
Oh, cool.
That's an idea that I've already
worked. Somebody's going to produce that.
I love Gamma World.
See? All right. Well, hit Sadie up. Talk about Gamma World. You know you've got a friend there. And Sadie, thank you so much for being on. This was a blast. And
thanks for having me. Best
of luck with Girl by Moonlight and everything else. It's a featured game of this month. And I just hope everybody, I know it's already been successful on BackerKit, but I hope people jump in there and just keep buying this thing because it's so good. It's such a cool game. And we'll be watching for what you do in the future.
Thanks.
Thanks again for coming on TTRPG Insider, Sadie. This was such a fun conversation. If you or anyone you know has a crowdfunding effort about to launch or currently going, send them my way. I love to share cool projects and to help people reach their goals. You can connect with me through the Go Fund This Podcast Facebook page or via email directly to rob@smgpods.com. You can find a link to this Kickstarter and any other links that we discussed in the show notes. Go Fund This is a production of Southgate Media Group, hosted, edited, and produced by me, Rob Southgate. Thanks again for listening to Go Fund This.